the summer sun was brutal that year, baking the city's streets into a shimmering haze of heat and exhaustion. I stood at the window of our penthouse apartment, watching the traffic crawl below, and I thought about the last time I had seen my brother, Toby. He had been 17 then, all gangly limbs and earnest eyes, his face still bearing the softness of childhood. He had come to the city with nothing but a cheap suitcase and his dreams. And Neil, my husband, had crushed them without even realizing it. I had never asked Neil for anything. Not in 3 years of marriage. I had never demanded a nicer apartment, a bigger diamond, a more expensive vacation. I had been the perfect wife, quiet, accommodating, grateful for everything he gave me. But when Toby needed a summer internship, I had finally asked, "Neil, could you find a spot for Toby at your company? Just something simple. He's smart and hardworking. He just needs a chance." Neil didn't even look up from his laptop. "Tell him to go to reception," he said, his voice flat and dismissive. "They'll sort him out." That was it. No interest, no enthusiasm, no offer to help his brother-in-law navigate the corporate world. Just a cold, indifferent dismissal. Toby took the bus 17 hours from our hometown through the night, arriving in the city with dark circles under his eyes and a cheap duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He was wearing his best outfit, a white shirt he had ironed himself, the collar stiff and clean. He was so proud of it. He thought it made him look professional. He sat in the lobby for 4 hours. Reception didn't know what to do with him. His appointment had been vague, and no one had told them to expect him. So he waited, his back straight, his hands folded in his lap, his eyes scanning the glass doors for a familiar face. And then the message appeared in the company group chat. "Who is that country bumpkin in reception? His shirt collar is yellow. So embarrassing." Attached to the message was a photo of Toby, sitting alone in the lobby, his face hopeful and anxious, his white shirt glowing under the harsh fluorescent lights. Below it was another photo, Neil, his arms slung around the shoulder of a young man, both of them laughing, both of them dressed in sharp designer suits. The caption read, "A brother like this versus a brother like that. The difference is everything." I had been watching the chat. I always did because I wanted to see what my husband's world was like. And I saw the photo, I saw the message. I saw my brother being humiliated by people who didn't even know his name. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply saved the screenshots, closed the app, and waited for Toby to come home. He arrived that evening, exhausted but smiling. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small bag of dried peaches. "Ruby, I brought these for Neil," he said, his voice bright and warm. "I know he's really busy. I'll try again tomorrow. Also, the lady at reception gave me a glass of water. She was really nice." He beamed at me, completely unaware of the mockery that had been directed at him all afternoon. He was so innocent, so trusting, so full of hope. He had no idea that the world had already decided he wasn't worthy. I smiled back. I patted his head. And when he went to bed, I called my lawyer. "I need to draft a divorce agreement," I said. "No negotiations. No custody disputes. I just want out." The lawyer was silent for a moment. Then she asked, "What happened, Ruby?" "My brother," I said. "Neil humiliated my brother, and I will never forgive him for it." Hashtag chapter 1, the collision of two worlds. Objective commentary, the observer's voice. My name is James Sterling, and I have been Neil Sterling's business partner for over a decade. I watched him build his empire from nothing, using a combination of ruthless ambition and calculated charm. I saw him marry Ruby, a quiet, elegant woman who seemed to balance his sharp edges with her gentleness, and I watched their marriage unravel over something as small as a white shirt. Ruby was not the kind of woman who made demands. She was not the kind of woman who complained. She was the kind of woman who smiled, who endured, who waited. And when she finally spoke, the silence that followed was deafening. I had seen her brother, Toby. Once he was a good kid, hardworking, earnest, kind. He was the opposite of Neil, who was calculating, ambitious, cold. Toby came from their small hometown, the same town where Ruby's family had lived for generations. He was a product of a simpler world, a world that Neil had long ago left behind. Neil didn't hate Toby. He didn't hate him at all. He just didn't see him. He didn't see his potential, his goodness, his worth. And that dismissal, that casual indifference, was more cruel than any insult could ever be. When Ruby filed for divorce, Neil was shocked. He called me, his voice a mixture of confusion and anger. "Ruby's divorcing me," he said. "She says it's because of Toby, because of some stupid message in the company chat. I didn't even know about the message. Someone else wrote it." I sighed. "Neil, it wasn't just the message that IT was everything, the way you dismissed Toby, the way you ignored him, the way you let your employees mock him. Ruby saw that, and she realized that you weren't the man she thought you were." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "She's throwing away our marriage for a country bumpkin?" "Neil," I said, "Toby isn't a bumpkin. He's her brother, and she loves him more than she ever loved you." Hashtag, 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 chapter 2, the other brother. Objective commentary, the observer's voice. The young man in the photo with Neil was Alexander. He was Neil's cousin, the son of Neil's late sister, and he had been the apple of Neil's eye since he was a child. He was polished, educated, ambitious, everything Neil valued. He was the kind of man Neil had always wanted to mentor, to shape in his own image. Alexander was not a bad person. He was just privileged, entitled, and completely unaware of the gulf between his world and Toby's. He had never had to struggle, never had to fight, never had to scrape together pennies for a bus ticket to the city. He was Neil's golden child, and Neil had made no secret of his preference. But Alexander was also a symbol of everything Ruby had come to despise about her husband. The nepotism, the elitism, the way he measured people by their wealth and status rather than their character. I remember one moment, years ago, at a company party. Alexander was holding court, surrounded by admirers, telling a story about his yacht, his travels, his expensive hobbies. Ruby was in the corner, talking to Toby, who was visiting for the summer. Toby was telling her about the farm, the animals, the simple joys of his life. Ruby was smiling. She was genuinely, radiantly happy, and I realized in that moment that she had never been happy with Neil's world. She had been tolerating it, surviving it, but she had never truly belonged. When she filed for divorce, Alexander laughed. "She's leaving him for a poor farmer?" he joked to Neil. "Good luck to her. She'll be back in a year." Neil didn't laugh. He was too stunned, too angry, too confused. But Alexander's dismissal, his casual cruelty, only deepened the divide between Neil and Ruby. Hashtag, 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 chapter 3, the chicken shed revelation. Objective commentary, the observer's voice. I found out the truth about Toby's family on a rainy Tuesday afternoon when Ruby came to my office to finalize the divorce documents. She was calm, composed, and utterly resigned. She had accepted that her marriage was over and she was moving on. But before she signed the papers, she told me a story. When Toby was born, my mother was working 3 jobs, and my father had just walked out on us. She had no savings, no support, nothing. But she had a dream. She wanted to build a chicken farm. She wanted to give her children a future. Ruby paused, her eyes distant. She saved every penny she could. She worked double shifts, went without food, slept on the floor of our tiny apartment. And when she finally had enough money, she bought a small plot of land and started her farm. I listened, not understanding where this was going. And then, a few years ago, Toby was doing some research for his agricultural studies. He found out that the land my mother had bought was sitting on a massive lithium deposit. The largest in the country, according to the geological surveys. I felt my breath catch. Lithium, the backbone of the electric vehicle revolution, the most valuable mineral in the world. The lithium rights were never claimed, Ruby continued, because no one had bothered to check. S.O. Toby filed the claim. He owns the rights to the lithium deposit. He's worth over $2 billion. I stared at her, my mind reeling. $2 billion? Ruby nodded. Toby never wanted the money. He never wanted anything. He just wanted to be a farmer, to live a simple life. But he's also smart. He knows that the world is changing. And he knows that he has the power to change the world in his own way. I leaned back in my chair, still processing. So all of this, Neil's insults, the mockery, the humiliation, it was directed at a billionaire. Ruby smiled, a cold, sharp smile. Yes, James. And now I'm going to use that money to make sure that Neil never hurts anyone again. Hashtag chapter 4, the takeover. Objective commentary, the observer's voice. What Ruby did next was nothing short of brilliant. She used Toby's lithium fortune to buy controlling shares in Neil's company. IT was a quiet takeover, a stealthy acquisition that happened over the course of 6 months. By the time Neil realized what was happening, it was too late. Ruby walked into the boardroom of Sterling Industries on a Thursday morning, flanked by her lawyers and her brother. She was wearing a simple black suit, her hair pulled back, her expression calm and unreadable. Good morning, everyone, she said. I'm here to announce that I am now the majority shareholder of Sterling Industries. As such, I am exercising my authority to make a few changes. Neil stood up, his face red with rage. Ruby, what the hell is this? You can't just... Oh, I can, she said. I own 55% of this company. I can do whatever I want. And what I want is to clean house. She turned to the board. Effective immediately, Neil Sterling is relieved of his duties as CEO. His role will be taken over by a new management team, handpicked by my brother and me. The board members were stunned. They looked at Neil, then at Ruby, then at Toby, who was standing quietly in the corner, his expression neutral. And one more thing, Ruby continued. The employees who mocked my brother, the ones who wrote those messages, the ones who shared those photos, they're also being terminated. I have the screenshots, the records, the proof that I don't tolerate bullying in my company. Neil was screaming now, his voice hoarse with fury. You can't do this, Ruby. This is my company. I built this company. Ruby turned to him, her eyes cold and hard. You built this company on the backs of people like my brother, people you dismissed, humiliated, and ignored. And now you get to see what happens when those people fight back. She walked out of the boardroom, followed by Toby and her lawyers. Neil collapsed into his chair, his face pale, his hands trembling. He had lost everything. His company, his reputation, his future. All because he had dismissed the wrong person. Objective commentary. The observer's voice. The aftermath of the takeover was devastating for Neil. He was stripped of his power, his influence, his status. He became a cautionary tale, a symbol of hubris and downfall. But Ruby's victory was bittersweet. She had avenged her brother, but she had also lost her marriage. She had fought back, but she had also sacrificed the life she had built. She was wealthy now, powerful, untouchable, but she was also alone. I asked her once if she regretted it. She shook her head. Regret? No, I regret marrying Neil in the first place. I regret ignoring the warning signs. But I don't regret fighting back. I don't regret protecting my brother. Toby is worth 1,000 meals. And I would burn the whole world down to keep him safe. I believed her. Hashtag chapter 5, the new beginning. Objective commentary, the observer's voice. The summer after the divorce, Ruby and Toby moved back to their hometown. They bought back the family farm, restored the old house, and started a new life together. Ruby invested in the local community, building schools, hospitals, and community centers. She became a philanthropist, a leader, a force for good. Neil, meanwhile, spiraled into obscurity. His company was dismantled, his reputation ruined. He tried to rebuild, but no one would work with him. He was a pariah, a ghost of the man he had once been. One day, about a year after the divorce, Neil showed up at Ruby's farm. He was thinner, older, his expensive suits replaced by cheap clothes. He looked like a man who had lost everything. "Ruby," he said, his voice trembling, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I don't deserve anything, but I wanted to see you. I wanted to apologize. I was wrong. I was so wrong." Ruby looked at him, her expression unreadable. She had changed too. She was stronger now, more confident, more at peace. "Neil," she said, "you had years to apologize. Years to see Toby, to appreciate him, to be kind to him. You chose not to, and now you have to live with the consequences of your choices." He fell to his knees. He started crying. He started begging. I watched from the porch, feeling a strange mixture of pity and contempt. I had seen Neil at his peak, had admired his ambition. But I had also seen his cruelty, his dismissiveness, his unwillingness to see the goodness in others. Ruby turned away. She walked back into the house, and she didn't look back. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag epilogue. The girl who fought back. Final objective commentary. The observer's voice. Ruby Sterling's story is a reminder that strength is not always loud. IT is often quiet, patient, and relentless. She endured years of dismissal and cruelty, and when she finally spoke, the world listened. She didn't fight back out of anger or revenge. She fought back out of love for her brother, for the values she believed in, for the world she wanted to build. Toby became a billionaire. Ruby became a leader. And Neil became a cautionary tale. I think about them sometimes, about the three of them, that I think about the summer that changed everything, the white shirt, the dried peaches, the messages in the group chat. I think about the moment Ruby decided that she had had enough. And I realized that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away or refuse to accept a world that dismisses you, that humiliates you, that breaks you. To fight back, not with violence, but with courage. Ruby Sterling fought back, and she won.